Hi friends and companions along this path of spiritual practice. In 9th century Tang Dynasty China, Zen Master Zhaozhou addressed the assembled monks and delivered perhaps one of the greatest summaries of Buddhist practice. He said, "Attaining the Great Way is not difficult. Just avoid picking and choosing. But as soon as words are spoken, there is picking and choosing and understanding. Understanding that can take the delusive form of attraction and aversion. But the great way is not to be found in understanding," he said, "but clarity into our intrinsic nature." For the monks and all of us who hear these words, we might wonder whether attaining enlightenment is easier and feasible, or whether having no preferences is more feasible. We live our days. In fact, our days might be nothing other than our preferences. One preference after another as we pursue our human interests and purpose. For Zen Master Zhaozhou to ask us to avoid preferences, to avoid picking and choosing. Maybe a robot might be able to do that, but for human beings, that seems to put enlightenment out of most people's reach. Our words, our thoughts, our actions are about selections that we make. They're about preferences. They're about the function of picking and choosing. When we choose to say a specific word, we are illuminating that word. We are putting that word in the foreground compared to other words. When we use the word equity, we are foregrounding that word as distinct from the word equality. Or when we choose, when we pick and choose the word restorative justice, we are illuminating and foregrounding that word, that notion, compared to punitive justice or retributive justice. Anytime that a word is spoken, many other words are unspoken, if you will. And Zen masters, just as you and me, are compelled to pick and choose and select words so that they can arrive at understanding. But Zen Master Zhaozhou says that understanding can fall into delusive form of attraction and aversion. He seems to be positing that there is something about understanding that may be dangerous. Something about the human tendency to utilize picking and choosing ideas and words and actions so that what we encounter day to day in our life is surrounded by that question of what use does this thing have for me? What is this thing's use value? How can I instrumentalize this thing or even this person for my use? What if understanding is another way of describing that assembly line? As soon as we have an idea, a word, as soon as we try to understand something, it quickly gets captured by that assembly line from production and manufacturing to marketing and distribution to consumption for my human purpose. It's so difficult not to pick and choose our way in instrumentalizing so many things for my purposes. Zen Master Zhaozhu says, the great way is not about understanding, but that there is a clarity that sees deeply into the intrinsic nature of being human and alive. I don't believe that Zen Master Zhaozhu is saying that we should not pick and choose. But as we take our meditation seat, to realize that there is a sacred mystery that cannot be reduced to our picking and choosing. That Zhaozhu is putting in tension our desire to understand and comprehend something versus the humility and the vulnerability before a sacred mystery that we cannot comprehend, but rather is revealed to us. In religious and spiritual life, we talk about revelation as a mode of beginning to touch something that is mysterious. And yet, in trust and faith, we sense that this sacred mystery is what enlivens the very foundation of our being. This sacred mystery that cannot be comprehended and instrumentalized for our use. Only then, perhaps, says Zen Master Zhaozhu, can we rightly, compassionately, and wisely pick and choose our way into skillful means. And so, friends, we take our seat and we continue with our spiritual practice.